to News and Views with myself, Salalo Makwidiri. We're going to be having our hashtag Africa Focus feature. And if you listen to the show religiously, I'm sure you should know by now that this is the part of the show where we focus on some of the biggest stories across the African continent, stories that might not get as much attention as they deserve, but they are genuinely big stories. They're stories that we should be looking at. They're stories that we should be analyzing. And they're stories that we need to be given as much attention as we can. And this time around, and I think this is probably the biggest story of the week, and one that we all need to interact, look at, because it affects Africa, but also affects people of Gaza, Palestinians. In a shocking report, which has emerged quite recently, there's been suggestions that Israel explored the possibility of forcefully transferring Palestinians from Gaza to African countries, with South Sudan being named as one of the potential destinations for this forceful removals. Something that rings a bell for a lot of South Africans, forced removals. Apartheid South Africa, apartheid Israel. But yeah, the Associated Press cited sources claiming that talks were underway between Tel Aviv and Juba, the capital of South Sudan. But South Sudan has firmly denied the reports. They're saying the reports are baseless and do not reflect government policy. But still, the story has sent shockwaves across Africa and beyond, and raising urgent questions about international law, forced displacement, and whether Africa is being used as a political dumping ground. Human rights groups warn such a move would amount to ethnic cleansing, and critics fear it would permanently bar Palestinians from returning to Gaza and paving their way for annexation and resettlement by Israel, which I think we can all agree is the end goal and point of the apartheid Israel at this point. So, what's the truth behind some of these reports, and what does it mean for Africa and for Palestine if such proposals were even entertained? Excuse me, it's important to have this conversation because we've seen a trend quite recently from Western countries, the likes of the UK, Britain, America, and I know it's not the same kind of circumstance. The apartheid Israel state one is a bit far more extreme, but we've seen a trend where refugees are now being dumped onto African countries. The UK is doing it with Kenya. We saw quite recently the United States of America sending some unsavory human beings to Eswatini. And I have a feeling that Israel might be, I don't know, taking a page from the script of its best of friends by this planned move, this plan to transfer Palestinians from Gaza to African countries, with South Sudan being earmarked as one of those countries. But yeah, we'll be getting the latest on that front, and we'll be heading to South Sudan with Mayen-Manyoun. He's South Sudan's foremost journalist. He's a content creator and someone that's on the pulse when it comes to the issues of South Sudan and how the people on the ground are interacting with them. As I mentioned, South Sudan-based journalist, writer, editor, essayist, and content creator, Mayen-Manyoun, and is joining us via telephone. Manyuon, thank you so much for joining us. Always a pleasure having you here on Salam Media. And yeah, looking forward to unpacking, I think, this really concerning state of events and whether or not it is true that Israel wants to wants to send Palestinians from Gaza to Africa, with South Sudan being earmarked as one of those countries.
Yes, a very good morning from Juba, South Sudan, Salam Radio, and thanks for having me this particular morning. My name is Mayen-Manyoun. I am a South Sudan-based journalist and editor at the same time. Just to go into your question, yeah, there've been circulating news about the Palestinians to be enrouted to South Sudan, following what is so-called, diplomatic engagement between Juba and Tel Aviv. One thing that I need to underscore really quick is that, though though our government later on, denied the allegation, then I need to reflect that, always, the one thing that we need to understand when it comes to repatriation, it always comes with the question of humanity, and if at all it was under that dimension, then it would really be recognized globally that there's a need for this particular country to assist when it comes to human being related affairs. But for this particular case, it got rumored on media, but later on when it was cross-checked with authorities in Juba, South Sudan, the truth was never told. And one thing that I know is that during the course of the war in Gaza, I think the Republic of South Sudan has not come out clear to support, the one single country. And when we are to date back with what is happening, back in the days, especially at the independence in 2011, South Sudan recognized the state of Palestine, and it officially registered this recognition by 14th of July 2011. So, one would get to understand that the Republic of South Sudan has been in close ties, with Palestine. And at the same time, in December 2012, South Sudan voted in favor of elevating the Palestinians' status to UN non-member of observer state, and this cited support for Palestinian self-determination. So if you analyze that, and a lot of historical, bilateral, symbolism, like with Palestine, so you would see that the South Sudan, has been like trying to balance the bilateral ties with the world countries, including Palestine. So when we come to the question of Israel, now that it is rumored that the Republic of South Sudan is in discussion, like with Israel, for them to bring the war affected victim here. So one thing that I need to admit is that earlier this month, that was on the 1st of August, the Minister of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation of South Sudan, Ambassador Mande Samaya Kamba, was in Tel Aviv and Jerusalem to deliver the special message of His Excellency President Salva to the Israeli leaders. And I think this has been following a bunch of bilateral ties, because you might have seen South Sudan is having a lot of bilateral issues nowadays with some of the world countries. So they're trying to revise the bilateral relations like with the world countries, and that's what I thought like we took in there. The discussion was not public, but if there was anything related to the immigrants in Palestine that was discussed, then it was never brought to media. But what I know, South Sudan has been having a close bilateral talk with Israel. Even on the 13th of August, the Deputy Minister of Foreign Affairs of the State of Israel, Her Excellency Sharon Askald, was in Juba for a one-day working visit, which was aimed at strengthening bilateral relations, so between the two countries. So, you saw the minister went and the deputy minister came. So it shows that they are working hard to improving or enhancing their bilateral ties. But this is what I can say, given that there's this issue on the media. So I that's my own analysis. And if there is something like that, then it will still come to light. But at the moment, we can conclude that the government in Juba said that they are not accepting, they did not discuss a protocol which aim at bringing these particular immigrants to Juba. But we'll still see. But when they are brought to Juba later on, then what are we trying to achieve here? Juba is already fragile. To the South Sudan, the economic hardships. We have already. The conflict affected the population struggling. Why would people be already brought to a fragile kind of situation? I think I can beg to stop here in my first presentation.
No, most definitely. And I want to touch on something which is very, very important. And you just briefly spoke about it. The fact that South Sudan at this current moment, I think we can all agree that is desperate for international legitimacy and financial aid. Can these factors, be a tempting factor for the government to secretly entertain such talks for political and or economic gain?
Yeah, I basically I would want to agree that South Sudan is in a huge humanitarian distress, and what I know is that all these efforts enhancing the bilateral ties with the world countries aimed at finding possibilities to relieve this particular humanitarian distress, which is already affecting the population right here, and also at the same time trying to find a ground where maybe they can attract the world leaders in order for them to play a role in building a peaceful coexistence in the country, because you understand the revitalized peace agreement signed in 2018 is still having a huge implementation gap, and I think they aim at finding a way.
All right. We still seem to have lost Mayen-Manyoun there, and he was giving us a bit more insight about the fact that South Sudan, which at this current moment, I think, if you've been reading about South Sudan, you should know that they are still reeling or recovering from a civil war. There's been famine and refugees from neighboring conflicts, and it just brings to question, just how realistic would it be for the government to even consider hosting Palestinians from Gaza? And there's absolutely nothing wrong with hosting Palestinians from Gaza who are seeking refuge at this current moment. But this is for an agenda. If these allegations are true, this is to permanently displace people from Gaza. This is to make sure that they potentially don't even have the right to return back home, and it's not done out of good faith, as we should all expect from the apartheid Israeli government. And we've seen it play out a few times, and I know, as I mentioned, the circumstances are not the same, but it seems like Israel is taking a page out of a script that has been used by the UK, which has sent refugees to Kenya and other parts of Africa. The United States is also doing it. Our neighbors right next door, Eswatini, has also received some people that they don't want, essentially. So we should be concerned with this. I think, especially from a South African point of view, there might be a feeling of, what, let the people of Gaza come in. Let them come into the continent. Let them come into South Africa. Because we understand the struggle that they're currently fighting. We understand the inhumane circumstances that they've been subjected to by this pariah apartheid state of Israel. But I don't think this is something that we should let happen, because it's ethnic cleansing. You know, Israel at this point is looking for whatever avenue they can find to make sure that they rid Palestine of its indigenous people. They want them out, whether it's by killing them, whether it's by mass starvations, and now by mass transfers to Africa. They're willing to do it all. And I think African governments should reject this. Say, no, we won't be part of your ethnic cleansing agenda. It doesn't matter. You can keep your money, you can keep your investments, because that's the card that they always seem to, hit African countries with. Otherwise, if any African countries allows Palestinians to be deported, to be transferred in mass to their countries, then they are complicit in this genocide also. You're part of it. You're part of a displacement of Palestinians from their lands. You're playing a role. You are in cahoots with the apartheid state of Israel. And that we should never allow. Going to take a quick break. When we come back, news and views continues after this.